On a freezing evening, a boy stood outside a cafe window with trembling lips and red fingers. He didn't ask for food, money, or help, just a little warmth. People inside sipped hot drinks, laughed, and ignored the foggy glass where his breath lingered, but one gentle knock changed everything. What happened next melted more than just the cold. The city was wrapped in icy darkness, its streets shining with the reflection of streetlights on wet ground. The wind blew harshly, making people bury their hands deeper into their pockets and hurry home. Among them was a small boy named Ayaan, around 10 years old, wearing a jacket far too thin for the winter and shoes whose soles were almost worn through. Ayaan had no home to return to. He used to live with his mother in a small rented room, but when she fell ill and couldn't work, everything slipped away. First went the furniture, then the room, and finally she was taken to a government hospital where he wasn't allowed to stay. With no relatives to turn to, he wandered the streets, surviving on the kindness of strangers and the leftover food from the back doors of restaurants. Days went by in hunger, but it was the cold that hurt the most. His fingers would turn stiff, his nose would sting, and his lips would crack. Still, he kept walking, hoping for somewhere, anywhere with warmth. One evening, after searching trash cans for scraps, he felt his legs grow weak. The temperature was dropping quickly, and the wind pierced through his shirt like needles. He looked around for a place to sit and found a cafe glowing softly with golden lights. Through the large glass windows, he saw people laughing, holding steaming mugs and warming their hands near heaters. The sight wasn't just comforting, it was painful. His stomach twisted with hunger, but more than that, his body craved warmth. He moved closer to the window, his hands tucked under his arms. He didn't want to disturb anyone. He didn't want to beg. He just wanted to feel heat against his skin, even from a distance. Standing there, his breath fogged the glass, and he traced a small line with his finger to peek inside more clearly. The smell of fresh coffee and baked bread faintly slipped through the door whenever someone walked in or out. Ayaan closed his eyes, imagining what it would feel like to sit inside on a soft chair. He remembered how his mother used to make him tea with milk when he was little. Those memories were warm, but the night was not. His feet began to ache from standing too long. He walked to the side of the cafe where a thin stream of warm air escaped from a vent. He crouched near it, rubbing his hands together and holding them close. It wasn't enough, but it was something. People continued to enter and exit, their scarves, coats, and shopping bags making them look like they belonged to another world entirely. Ayaan's eyes stung, not from the cold, but from the loneliness. Still, he didn't cry. He had cried too many nights already. Tonight, he just wanted a moment of peace, a breath of warmth, and a chance to survive until morning. And as the lights inside flickered against the glass, he gathered his courage and decided to step closer, just enough to be seen, not heard. Ayaan walked hesitantly toward the main window of the cafe. His hands were shaking, not just from the cold, but from fear of rejection. He pressed his palms against the glass gently, feeling the faint warmth on the other side. The sight inside was almost like a dream. A family sat by the window eating pastries, a couple shared a slice of cake, and friends laughed over steaming cups. He stood silently, hoping someone might notice. But no one looked his way. Even those who saw him pretended they didn't. A woman briefly glanced, then turned away, pulling her child closer. A man frowned and shifted his seat so he wouldn't face the window. To them, Ayaan was just a shadow in the cold. Not a boy, not a story, not a soul. The wind struck again and he instinctively lifted his hand to knock. But he hesitated. What if they yelled at him? What if someone called security? He had been chased away before, from doorsteps, alleys, and even outside bakeries where he was just sitting. The memory of harsh voices still echoed in his head. Go away! Don't stand here. You're scaring customers. He stepped back, shivering harder now. His nose was red, his ears numb, and his legs stiff. He looked down at his fingers and rubbed them together, hoping to feel something. He tried blowing warm air into his cupped hands, but the cold stole the heat instantly. Finally, Desperation pushed him to act. He raised his hand and tapped softly, just once, on the glass. The sound was barely audible inside. No one turned. So, with trembling fingers, he knocked again. A little louder this time. A few people looked up. Some frowned, others ignored him completely. A waiter glanced toward the window and then immediately walked away, as if the sight of the boy was something he didn't want to deal with. A man inside leaned toward his friend and whispered something with a smirk, shaking his head. Ayan lowered his gaze, embarrassed. He didn't want their food, he didn't want their money. He just wanted to stand near the heater or inside the doorway for a moment. His lips parted as if to speak, but no words came out. Then a staff member approached the window from inside. The boy's heart skipped, thinking maybe they'd open the door. But instead, the staff member simply pulled the thick curtains across the glass, blocking the view and blocking him from sight, like he never existed. The warmth slipped away with that single motion. Now the glass reflected only his thin figure, wrapped in cold silence. His hope began to crumble. Another gust of wind slapped his face, and his teeth chattered uncontrollably. He turned slightly and leaned his forehead against the window, eyes closing in exhaustion. No one opened the door. No one asked what he needed. No one saw the child beneath the dirt. Hunger and silence. And that night, the world felt just a little colder. Just as Ayan began to step away from the window, ready to find a corner to curl into for the night, something unexpected happened. The cafe door opened, not to send him away, but gently, quietly, like an invitation. A woman in her late 30s stepped outside. She wore a simple coat and carried a warm cup in her hands. Her eyes were soft, not startled, not pitying, just kind. "Are you cold?" she asked softly. Ayan didn't speak. He simply nodded, his breath shaky. The woman gently placed the cup in his hands. It was hot chocolate. Its warmth stung his fingers at first, then settled like a blessing. "Come inside," she said. He looked at her in disbelief. I don't have money," he whispered, afraid she might change her mind. "You don't need it," she replied, opening the door wider. Inside, the light touched his face, and the warmth hit him all at once. The people who had ignored him earlier turned their heads, surprised. Some looked away in shame. Others simply watched silently. The woman guided him to a corner table near a heater. She brought a thick blanket and wrapped it around his shoulders. "Sit here," she said gently. "Warm yourself first." His eyes glistened, but he blinked the tears away. As he sipped the hot chocolate, the warmth traveled through his fingers, his chest, his heart. A waiter, the same one who had ignored him earlier, approached with a plate of bread and soup. He set it down quietly, avoiding eye contact, but his face carried a different expression now, something close to regret. The woman sat across from Ayan. "What's your name?" she asked. He hesitated. "Ayan, do you have somewhere to go tonight?" He shook his head slowly. Without asking too many questions, she called someone and spoke in a calm but firm voice. After finishing the call, she said, "There's a shelter nearby. They'll take care of you tonight, and tomorrow. We'll see what more we can do." Ayan looked at her, confused. Why are you helping me?" She smiled softly. "Because warmth isn't just for those who can pay for it." For the first time in weeks, he felt seen, not as a problem, not as a burden, but as a child. The cafe, once a place that shut him out, now held the sound of his quiet breathing and the slow return of hope. When it was time to leave, the staff provided him with a pair of gloves and a small packet of food. The woman walked him to the shelter, holding an umbrella above them as light snow began to fall. Before she left, she bent down and asked, "Do you need anything else?" Ayan hesitated, his voice barely audible. "Thank you. For opening the door?" She touched his shoulder gently. Sometimes that's all it takes to change a life. And that night, Ayan slept not on a sidewalk, but in a warm bed with a blanket, a pillow, and a future that suddenly didn't feel so far away. Kindness doesn't always come in grand gestures. It often begins with noticing. A knock can be a cry for help even when words are silent. One open door can melt the coldest night. Compassion costs nothing, but to someone in need it means everything. Be the warmth someone is afraid to ask for.